Earth or the entire solar system is entering into a very volatile part of the galaxy, and the galaxy itself is entering into a very dangerous part of creation itself. And so we're sooner than anybody expects, we're going to have heavenly problems that are just going to take people by storm. People are not prepared for that. They're not prepared for a meteor storm. They still think it's a joke. They're not preparing properly, right?
Nope.
It's going to become a big burden. And when it takes place, well, they're not going to have that prep time. And when it comes to, some of these prophecies like 3 days of darkness, if we were to go through early stages of that meteor storm, our atmosphere is going to be inundated with particles, causing it to be very heavy, right? It's going to cause further disruptions in the ocean as far as magma and everything else. We're going to have eruptions. Not to mention some of those rocks are going to hit critical structures in the earth. There are 19 places within the USA. If anything hits any of those places, we're doomed.
So
right? We're just doomed.
Now you're talking about apparently a lot of debris coming in and hitting us on the earth. I mean, maybe they're small, but I mean, there's lots. You're talking about serious, right?
It's serious. When that happens, people will start to look to the heavens. Where are they getting? If you look carefully, what they're actually doing is they're preparing to get people answers after this event, because once it happens and something breaches the atmosphere, causing possibly maybe let's say 200,000-300,000 people die, right? They're gonna say, well, what happened? How come nobody saw this? And every single soul on the earth is gonna start looking into the heavens by way of stories on the internet.
Yeah.
They are getting prepared for this. The internet, under the noses of most people, has been scrubbed. It's been scrubbed. It's been filtered. Many people who have big voices right now, they're being taken off the internet through allegations, through anything they can do.
Yep.
And they will succeed in doing that once a person is tied up in legalities and their reputation is ruined by way of the internet. Then YouTube pulls them, their Twitter pulls them, all this stuff happens. And so they have an active campaign to get ready for this, and they can't waste a moment because it's coming, right?
So
the sad part is people are going to get, there are going to be a lot of people hurt. There are going to be some damages in places nobody ever expected. There's all theories are going to fail as far as where things actually fall, because the entirety of the earth is going to be prone to this. Not just one spot. Every spot of the earth is going to be prone to this, except your extreme, south or north locations,
right,
of which nobody can occupy. So when
earlier today, they announced that yesterday, the Astro Bennu, they said, okay, we're going to tell you, it's going to hit the earth, okay, in the year 2182. There's no question. It's going to hit us. It might hit us in 2135, but if not, for sure in 2182. It comes by every 6 years, and they've calculated it mathematically. And this is the first time I've ever heard NASA say, and this was NASA, say we are going to have an impact. And I'm wondering, I was going to ask you tonight is, do you think this is, even though it's 159 years away, nobody's going to care about it at this moment, but is this part of a disclosure, or to at least get the populace prepared that things are coming, so that when it starts, they're not totally unaware of possibility?
That's just for a reaction. One thing, they're good people in certain places, right? But
right,
as a whole, these agencies, they are pious, right? They're very pious, and they are part of a plan. They always are. They give good cover stories. By saying that, what have they done? What they did was they calmed everybody's fears.
Yep.
And they stopped everybody from looking in the heavens because it's, so far away. Nobody's gonna, in my opinion, no one is gonna be worried about that, right?
No.
Because we're gonna have a very limited amount of people on the earth by that time.
Right.
It's just not, things are gonna change abruptly. And when it starts, it's not gonna stop. And people are not going to be, if people were prepared for something like that, they would demand answers. In this culture that we have, they would hang their leaders. Is what would happen. And this is a real fear that if people find out the true story, if they find out certain segments of intelligence, then they would call for a lot of leaders to be jailed because they did not prepare the public for what's coming. Right?
Yeah.
And we're effectively blocked out of Russian news. Russia actively prepares its people for things like this. Actively.
That's
right?
amazing.
And so they have messages that go out past ball almost every week. They're actually spending a lot of money building and fortifying infrastructure. People are notified that we're about to have an issue. They are already notified of this. They're watching the permafrost and things happen with that in the skies, right? They have their own space program. And so they're getting their people ready now.
So they know
right now.
So the Russians are telling their population,
yes,
there is a meteor storm coming. There is a storm coming that's going to rock this world. And so they are openly announcing it and preparing the people. And it's crickets over here. There's zero. Nobody's saying anything about this.
Nothing.
You and me on Thursday night. That's it. I mean, seriously. And I guess they don't care about us. I mean, what is the reasoning?
Well, they believe they know better than everybody else. If you notice in America, they speak for people. They don't listen to people. They don't listen to anything.
No.
Once they have an idea, right? They use propaganda to get everybody behind an idea. They don't listen to the populace, right? They offer the populace choices. And they say, hey, take this or that. And the people never get to decide what is what, because we're working by this reward system. That's just the way it is. And the entire world sees the USA this way. So we have slipped a long way. We don't care for people anymore. We hide a lot in this country. And even if that were to ever come forward, people would be absolutely disgusted. You've had certain people that try to tell it, but as you can see by way of demonstration and what's happening right now, it doesn't matter who you are. If you come forward and try to tell anything on any platform, you're going to get hammered. Right? You're going to get hammered. So that's happened. Nobody believed it. And so that person now is a nut job. Anyway, every
whistleblower that comes forward and says, look, this is what's going on. They are tarred and feathered publicly and hammered, like you said.
And here's how, when somebody comes forward with a true story, and when they tell that true story, if no one accepts them and embraces them, right, then that person is effectively ousted.
Yes.
And nobody cares.
Yes.
Nobody cares. That person has no defense. They wait on the populace to do that. They utilize social media and everything else to gauge what people are believing in, and they give people exactly what they expect, right? Because no one wants discomfort. Well, too bad, discomfort is coming, like these weather events. Why didn't they tell people about these weather events 10, 12, 13 years ago?
Oh, no, they did not.
Why didn't they do that? People should have been prepared. They should be prepared now. You have a lot of people out there, instead of taking things out of consideration, they're scoffing, right? Forget about scoffers. Forget about scoffers. When the entirety of the East Coast erodes, they're not going to be scoffing too much. They're going to be crying. When all coastal cities are in danger because what happened recently in Libya, right?
Yes.
You're going to see that everywhere. Every coastal.
I mean, that was
people are going to be frightened to live in a coastal place.
That was a crazy storm. I mean, that was called Storm Daniel. And it was in the Mediterranean, and it came out 3 times when it would go ashore and come back. And that third time when it hit Libya, it just literally wiped that city out. I mean, unbelievable. A storm.
And we're still only at about 2% of the one of the development factors of what we're actually going to reach. Meaning, they're admitting now that the atmosphere carries far more moisture than it used to, right? And that we're talking about a 3-year jump in the ability of the atmosphere to hold more tons of moisture. That number is going to jump by wintertime. By December, it's going to jump again. Do you know what that means in the wintertime?
Snow,
when you have cold
blizzards?
Well, snow, hail, right? Hail. We also have an increased density in the upper atmospheres, which is causing every space program, Space Force and the Air Force, to readjust and recalibrate instruments so that things operate and function right. They're having to reallocate different altitude settings for all satellites. Right? We have a real problem here. The Earth is undergoing changes, but nobody's talking about that stuff. And so when this other system continues to come in, we continue to feel those effects. If we survive the volcanism, if we survive the winds and all this other stuff, people will see that all the sun's photons being redirected out into space. No light will hit the Earth in those days. How long will that process last?
That's darkness.
That process could last for that can last for a month. That could last for an entire month.
That would create an unbelievable winter on the Earth.
Well, here's the difference though. We can't see infrared, right?
No.
And it just so happens that infrared waves will still hit the Earth, but without the encapsulation of photons, the Earth will get twice as hot. Oh. That's bad. So it'll be dark and burning up at the same time, right? Oh. That means volcanism. Volcanism is about to go to a brand new level. I'll say it starts right about now. It'll start going to a new level. Oceanic volcanoes, people are going to learn a lot about them. To date, they have identified 15 giant ones in the ocean that make every other volcano look like a toy. And these things are very active.
Are you serious?
And when a new continent is about to be seen, once they start seeing it pierce the surface, every day more and more of that continent is going to become visible. It'll be brand new.
What ocean is that? What do you
That's the Atlantic Ocean. The Atlantic.
So
because we're still having nickel come out of the ocean floor, right? Nickel, hot temperatures are coming. Yeah. Everything is being spewed out because we have a crack in the Atlantic, which is becoming quite bad. It's opening up. So it's something new is happening. So we have all these different things happening and people are not aware. They're not ready, right?
No, because they don't know. They have no idea what's happening. No.
Which, by the way, in my opinion, that's biblical. But that is right there in the book of Matthew that the world would not know, right? Yeah. That the signs that are giving are for those who actually read the word of God.
Yes.
Not for those who don't, right?
No.
And it kind of reminds me of Thessalonians. It says, God will send them a strong delusion that they would believe a lie, that they all might be damned,
right,
who love not the truth, but have pleasure in unrighteousness. So all these people who just love and enjoy what they do, they just living it up every single day, throwing everything to the wind with caution, not preparing when these things begin to happen, because the clock has just about run out. This weather phenomena, everything is starting to coalesce. It's starting to really coalesce.
So it's a kind of a grand plan. It's a master plan that's being orchestrated by Lucifer.
Sure it is.
And while he's doing it, the birthing pains, all these things happening in the heavens, with the heavens shaking and the meteorite storms coming, and all of these events, the atmosphere heating up, the planet heating up, the volcano. Tell us a little bit about I think it was a few months ago, you said that the core of the Earth had quit spinning.
Well, they had that article out. Remember that article they had out? They said the core of the Earth. And I was trying to cover that. That's a theory, of course, having the core of the Earth. That's not fact here. It's not established fact. It's theory. But there are some properties of the Earth that have altered. They have really altered. They know the resonance has changed, which means it is operating differently, right? It is my firm belief due to right there in the strata of the rock formations, you find that the magnetic poles have altered, so many thousand years in intervals. And we're at the time where we're starting to alter again because it hits a chaotic period, what's called a chaotic period. Then it realized. Come to find out, Pascal, guess what? That not only did the magnetic poles change, but the physical way the Earth sits right now, it's everything about it changed. In fact, people are going to learn more and more that
you're saying
a few thousand years ago, north was north, not north, but west was east and east was west. So the sun did not rise the way it does now.
Well, the Bible says in Isaiah chapter 24 that the earth is going to turn upside down. I don't know if that means just the poles, or are we talking a physical shifting?
No, I think something physical is going to happen because I can see the processes have already begun. They've already begun. And all the rock strata on the face of the earth, right? The magnetic properties, the little poles and diamagnetic particles, they all point north or south magnetically, right?
Okay.
They all change through intervals of the strata. So if you dig down, to one layer, they're aligned in one way. If you dig down another layer, they're realigned in another way. You dig down again, same thing. Dig down again, same thing. Also, the trees show they keep a good history of darkness and light. So if the sun is rising in the east, right, then those trees in orientation to a central point, those trees in the east would have their rings would be a little more, grown in one direction, because the sun will be pointing in one direction or overhead for a long time, right, before it settles. Well, that reverses itself. So they notice through the rings of the trees a massive inconsistency, meaning at some point, the sun was not rising where it does right now. And we're not talking about, 50,000 years ago. Nope. We're talking about a few thousand years ago.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
A few thousand. And so the same process is happening again, because right now the magnetic properties of the entirety of the earth are starting to become chaotic, which means north and south pole alignments are inaccurate. They're moving too fast, just like they did in the rock strata. This always happens before the reorientation of the earth. I also believe, because this one's quite strong, we're going to have a physical change in the rotation, right? Some of the forces that are operating in the solar system are altering other planets, right?
Okay.
They're probably not talking about this, but I'm telling you, there's some massive alterations going on with the planets. We're next. We are next. It's happening to us too. We're next.
The binary system out there?
Yeah, I believe it is. Yeah. I believe it's because of the binary system. And even if somebody has an argument, well, if something were out there, we'd be able to see it, right? A binary system doesn't, one sun being in close proximity to another does not mean you can see it. That's not what it means. We're talking about with celestial mechanics, close proximity could be, light years away, but they still have that effect. And so we're going to start to see some very odd and strange effects, right? Even the trail of the earth is much bigger than that.
Heard of Velikovsky, Immanuel Velikovsky, who wrote the book Worlds in Collision. He said that Venus and Jupiter were being affected. Back in 1950, he said those two planets are going to be severely affected from this gravitational pull before we ever feel it here on Earth. And is that because they're out there so far, and as this thing is going by?
That's right. And it's because of their mass, right? Yeah, their mass, their proximity to the sun, where we actually sit. So it's kind of like having a big magnet in a tray with an assortment of magnets, and if any of the magnets out there, the bigger magnets are going to start reacting, right, differently than the smaller magnets, due to having that combined force. So mass will equate to some sort of energetic attraction. So they'll have that plus. The composition of these planets will start to alter. In other words, people are going to look up in the heavens, and Mars is going to become incredibly bright. Number one, that will become incredibly. I bet you that will rival the light of the moon, Mars.
How does it become light? How does it? I mean, it's what's reflecting on it to make it
the sun? That's the sun, right? But as Mars goes through its transition that has already begun, right? It's going to cause the sun or the Mars to illuminate quite bright. Not to mention, we're going to continue to change in our axes. The axis of the earth is going to continue to change. They will not corroborate any of this information. So what's going to happen? People are going to be on the internet and say, well, nothing changed, right?
Right.
But the stars will be out of alignment. The moon is going to be out of alignment of its arc. The sun will be out of alignment. People who are tracking these things, who have sundials, physical sundials, physical track like Georgia guidestones. I know what people thought it was, but Pastor Paul, do you not know that they were keeping a physical track of the moon through the Georgia guidestones?
Do you know that? I knew they laid them out a certain way that had something to do with the stars, or they were sort of like what the Egyptian pyramids did.
Yeah, well, all of those are like
Stonehenge,
almost like
Stonehenge,
celestial trackers, right? Because they were checking for the alignment. Because historically, when they got out of alignment last time, great devastations came upon the earth. Well, guess what? They're out of alignment. They're totally out of alignment. We're also having time dilations happen to the entirety of the earth, which means analog clocks are going to start being way different than digital clocks.
That's crazy.
Now, digitally, they mandated a digital override or digital facelift of everything. So they could set the time at one central point. Nobody's going to worry about that. You have an analog clock. The crystal in that rock operates, or in the clock operates at a specific resonance. It's almost like a feedback chamber with electrons. Well, all that's starting to alter, which means older computers that also used a crystal resonator for timing, that's going to alter, right? So the properties of crystals are changing. They're changing. And that's a big deal, because if they change, so will the properties of water. Anyway, having said all that, Pascal, concerning this 3 days of darkness, you better believe it could actually happen. But here's what got me. Here's why I looked up this Anna person.
Okay, yep.
A long time ago when I was a kid, I had this persistent dream, and darkness was surely there. But when I became an older adult, I was laying in a bed. And in the middle of the night, I heard a trumpet that pierced all the way through my bones. Right now, this was before. Now, keep in mind, this was before I was ever into the Word of God like I am now. This is before that. Okay. This is before. This was before I talked to any soul on the internet. This was before everything. I heard that trumpet, and then all I could see was nothing but blackness. And I heard all these people asking me, they were asking, well, when is the sun? How long is this going to last? That's what they were saying. And it was pitch black. And I was told to tell them 37 days. But Pascal, keep in mind, I was confused, because when I said, why are they asking? Why are all those people? They were asking me that? Why would they ask me that? Right. I wasn't talking to anybody back then. Right. I had no plans to talk to anybody back then. I had no plans to do anything like I'm doing right now back then. Right. But they were asking me, and I was told to tell them 37 days. Right. 37 days. 37 days. That's what caught me, attracted my attention to this 3 days of darkness prophecy. For example, there was another dream when I was looking outside of a window, Pascal, and I look at that window every day now. In fact, the place I'm in right now is a place I actually dreamt about. And I was looking out of a window. It was like a big bay window outside, and it was nothing but thick. It looked like a thick burning smoke with cinders in it. Nobody could go outside, right? Nobody could go outside. And of course, that engulfed a lot of places. That engulfed everything. I mean, it was thick smoke with cinders. If you stuck your hand out there, it'd be burnt off. That's what I saw. But do you think I didn't quite see what she saw, right? Well, but what she saw, she said, if you go out, you're going to die. She said, well, this one too. You couldn't go outside. You couldn't go outside. You know, she said there was like demons or some kind of poisonous air or whatever. But you're saying what you saw was absolutely you couldn't go outside. If you did, in the bad. That's right. And it was thick, right past. You could look out of your window, right? And you could see through the window, but you could see almost, it looked like just a big, thick thing of dark black smoke with cinders in it blowing from, it looked like from north to south, from north to south. That's what it looked like. And you couldn't go out there. This dream was intense. Do you think that was a super volcano or something went off? Or? It very well could have been. We still have Tamaulipas. It's the biggest volcano on Earth, right? But we have another problem. Remember the orcas? Yeah. Yes, I do. They're not attacking the boats. I have to continue to say this. They're warning people. That area is where people are going to begin to burn. That area. What's this? But they're not listening. Okay, now which ocean are we talking here? That's right below, right outside of Morocco, right? Is where the first ones were pushing. So you're looking at between Portugal, Morocco, Gibraltar, all of that. All of that.
Mediterranean.
It's a very dangerous place. It's a very dangerous place. There are volcanoes around there that are now start to, they're rumbling. They are rumbling, right? Earthquakes. They had tremors out there. Prior to that event, they had the warning. Nobody was listening. And then we talked about it on air about those, I can't leave it alone, really. But they're being warned. That entire area is in trouble. The entire area. I would say all the way down to Algeria. They're in trouble.
So
Algeria,
this is the third week in a row that you brought up the orcas. Apparently, they must be still happening. They must be still coming up and washing up on the shores. Something's going on then.
They're pushing boats. Blue whales have joined it, or not blue whales, but larger whales are starting to exhibit the same behavior. What they're doing when a boat goes by or something like that, what they're doing is they start to push the boat. It's like they get the boat driver's attention, right?
What?
That's what they're doing. Yeah, they're pushing boats. They're not attacking the boats. They're pushing. It's like they're trying to get people's attention out. Sounds ludicrous, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But animals are always obedient. Always. Animals have indications and they have activities and things about them that right before any disaster, their behavior changes. You know what happened at them? This has been happening for a while, but do you know what's been happening recently?
What's that?
Giant squid are being seen. Now, we're not talking about giant squid under 150 feet long. We're talking about giant squid over 100 feet. We're true monsters of the deep. They're not, this isn't fanciful. This is real. China had some. Japan had some. We've had some, right? They're starting to, deep sea organisms that come from very deep parts of the ocean are starting to surface. They're starting, big ones. The big boys are surfacing.
So apparently these cracks in the ocean floor, the magma's rising, the heat's rising. These guys are on the move. They got to get away from it. And they're starting to come up, and it's sort of a warning to us, right?
Yeah, because if you look at the ocean right below the Mariana Trench, there's still places these creatures can go and not be affected by any of that. So why would they come to the surface? Why would they come to the surface on every continent, right? So something is happening, and sometimes we're so arrogant, and this world is just full of non-faith that we can't quite make that connection. But every time these animals start doing that, a disaster comes every single time. And tracking volcanic data and heavily data, this earth is changing rapidly. I mean, rapidly. So, what the governments are, they know about this.
Yeah.
Right now, they're prepared for an outage that will last longer than 30 days in the USA.
A grid, right? You see, in other words, they're preparing for the grid to go down in a big way.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Know it's
that
coming.
Means communications also. That means, and so if anybody is concerned about that, they really just give us some thought. What would it take for you to survive? 30 days, right? At least, at minimal, 30 days, right? To survive. If you have pets, same thing with your pets too. How would you do that with your pets? And so, because they are convinced that we're, 1,000% going to have an outage of our electrical system.
Is it because we don't have, is it because we let our grid go archaic, or is it because there's something coming up on the earth it's overwhelming?
Well, we're being overwhelmed. Things are already overwhelming things, and it's only a matter of a very short time before that fully takes effect. I think we're going to have some massive interruptions. I really do.
It's going to set them back.
I really do.
You think it's going to set them back? Yeah.
Or it's gonna set everybody back. We're gonna have some massive interruptions. I believe at that point they're gonna just tell everybody, if you want, you want to get out of that the ruins you're in, come and join us here. I think something like that will happen. I really do, because we have too many celestial issues. We have things on the way right now that they simply cannot be discussed. But there are things on the way right now. We are right in the bullseye. It's not gonna miss us.
Mike, appreciate you coming on. This 3 Days of Darkness really went into a great discussion before it was all said and done. And I really appreciate this type of information. We're going to keep our eyes open. We're coming down to the wire, looks like. And
yeah, we are.
We gotta be ready. So I appreciate
Pastor Paul, God bless and keep you.
Thank you so much for coming and being with us tonight.
All right. God bless.
God bless.